Coming up on episode 310 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Genesis GV70 Electrified, the Honda Civic Type-Rrrr, the Mazda Miata. Is VW bringing an electric GTI to market? There's a new 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser and the Lexus RX 450h plug-in hybrid. Volvo stops selling cars in the UK. No more MX-30s for Americans. Fisker shows off a bunch of new cars, some of which might even make it to market. The Concours d'Elegance is coming back to Midtown Detroit in mid-September. And we answer some questions about VW auto sticks and Porsche Sportomatic transmissions. All that and more coming up next. This is episode 310 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abul-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from the Road Reflected podcast.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from Hot Cars and Top Speed.
Couldn't remember the other one?
I can, yeah. No, it's once you say Hot Cars, everything after that sounds less.
It sounds kind of meh. You need to do the other way around.
I'm from Top Speed and Hot Cars.
There you go. That's how you should do it.
A delicious hot link sandwich of cars. That's where I'm from. Let me put this over here on this.
All right. Well, Nicole, let's start with you again.
Oh, we're starting with me. I'm first. Okay. God, he does that. I'm like, I'm first. It's like when the teacher calls on you and you haven't gotten your homework paper out yet. You're like, oh God, what do I do now? Okay. So this week I had a fun car. I had a really super, super fun car. I had the 2023 Honda Civic Type-Rrrr. I don't think it just be R. It needs more than R. Does R?
Need somebody that can roll their R's to do that.
Oh, I can't.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. Wait, I'll do it, and then you just add the R at the end. The 2023 Honda Civic Type. There we go.
Perfect.
That's what I'm driving this week. So
You're
this
welcome.
is fun. I mean, this is just the epitome of like a little hot hatch. There you go. There's the review. It's a hot hatch. This was gone for they've had this before, but it disappeared for last model year and came back this model year. Even though that last model year the Civic was new, the Type-Rrrr was gone. Now the Type-Rrrr is back, which makes me very happy. This is ridiculously fun to drive. So I had a lot of driving this week, an exceptionally large amount of driving, and a huge chunk of it was in really, 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 really heavy traffic in downtown Boston to go see Pink. Let's get this party started. So it was stop and go. And this is only available as manual transmission. So you've got a 6-speed manual, which is brilliant. But in stop and go traffic, a manual transmission can be like miserable because you're constantly on and off the clutch. You're trying to,
It's leg day.
It's leg day. It was leg day. And the thing is, especially in really heavy, like congested, everybody's trying to funnel into one lane and there's like 85 lanes funneling into it, which is a Boston thing. If you leave even a half an inch of space, you're going to get cut off. So you have to drive with a relatively like aggressive driving, like stay close, which is harder in a manual. And it's even harder when there's hills and narrow roads. This was actually really easy to drive. The clutch, it's not so hard that as you're pushing on it, your leg is generally feeling like it's leg day.
Oh, you mean it's not like a Mustang GT on the Ventura Freeway?
No, it is not. It is way better than that. Yeah, because I know you have some experience with that Mustang GT situation.
Recently.
You very much warned me, don't go this way. Yeah, I'm like, Sam said, don't go that way. And I did not. But this was unavoidable. But it was really, actually, it was very, very nice drive. So like huge raves about the manual transmission in this. And it's just very easy to drive, very fun. It's not a manual that's going to make you work hard. Like if you know how to drive a manual transmission, you're going to find this one super easy. And like, I know how to drive one, but every one you get in, the pressure points are a little bit different on the clutch. And you have that like first little bit of time where you're driving, where you're not the smoothest driver because you're kind of you have no intuitive sense of exactly how this specific manual in this car works. It took me no time at all to not be thinking about it anymore. It was very, very quick that it becomes intuitive, which again is just...
That Honda manual transmission is so nice. And the pairing with that clutch is really. I mean, I like the GT's clutch.
Yeah.
But it can be a little. Yeah, that Honda though, man.
It's good, right? Like I like manual transmissions. This one I loved. So super fun. I mean, it's got plenty of power. It's a 2.5 2 liter. I have written down 2 liter.
2 liter.
I'm like, wait, 2.5. I'm not saying what's written in front of me. 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, 315 horsepower. So, I mean, seriously, it's a tiny little car with 315 horsepower. I think that answers the question of whether or not when you push on the gas, it moves. It does. And it has a sport, a comfort, and a like individual mode where you can like customize stuff. You can feel a little difference between comfort and sport, but the thing is, this is sporty even when it's not set to that mode. There's no like, hey, I'm just chilling, relaxing, and cruising. There is no version of that for modes, which is fine, because if you want that, don't buy this. So even in comfort mode, it's still pretty aggressive, but you put it in sport.
That's what regular Civics are for.
That's a regular Civic. There's a whole different lineup, sort of like regular Civic, Type-Rrrr.
If you want to be comfortable,
don't buy this one.
Don't buy the R. If you want to be like,
yeah, right. So, and it is really that car, because the funny thing is, like, I stop at a stoplight and there's like other people in hot little hatches and little souped up cars. And I'm like, I feel like the car is just been like, do it, race them. I'm like, I am a grown adult. I am not doing this. I'm not even making eye contact with that guy in that sporty little yellow souped up. Does that have underground lighting on it? Like everything, no, don't look at him. Just drive.
Don't look at him.
Don't even make eye contact, because you'll be tempted. So, I mean, on the exterior, it looks really good. It looks like the sporty car has this ridiculous rear, I want to say spoiler. It's like a wing. It is like a wing.
The wing. It is a wing.
The wing. It's a wing. So, and it's huge. But the funny thing is, so when you open it, if you're putting stuff in the hatch, there are 2 little handholds that you can pull it shut. But really, every time I want to take it up, I swear to God, my hand hit that wing. I'm like, no. So don't pull it by the wing. That can't be good for the car. So you have to be a little careful, because that is intuitively where your hand wants to grab. My only complaint, I love this. The interior's red. I mean, like red. Like in your face red. It is so red. The seatbelts are red. The seats are red. The carpeting on the floor is red. The mats are red. It's like red everywhere. It is the prettiest interior. It just makes you happy when you open it up and look at it. However, it has what they call suede effect sport seats. That's what my Monroney says. So I'm saying it exact. Suede effect sport seats. So that's the suede fabric, which I'm also a fan of. But they're really, really sporty sports seats. Like the sportiest of sports seats. So if you were larger, the side bolstering is going to prove a little bit snug.
Even if you're right in the...
It kind of, I would imagine for you, Robbie, that it's not like you're, just because you're a tall guy.
Sports seats, like my body, for the most part, 90% of sports seats are apparently built for my body.
So do you like the sports seats in this one?
I haven't driven the new one. The old one, I drove the old one like 5 hours. The first thing when they offered it up to me, I was like, I have to drive 400 miles with this thing. They're like, and it was like an end of life, like the end of mileage for that vehicle before they auction it off.
Yeah.
And the Honda rep, I was at an event with them, and they were like, yeah, it's fine. They're like, you know what? It was over Christmas too. And they're like, you know what? Just keep it for like 2.5 weeks or whatever.
It's yours now.
It was great. It was great until the last night with that car. I don't want to hijack your story, so please go for it.
Okay. But so I like sports seats. I like the bolstering. You can get used to the side bolstering, unless I say, like, if you're a little bit larger, it's going to be squishy. But here's what I really didn't like the seat. There's bolstering on the seat cushion that is the strongest bolstering on the sides of a seat cushion that I've ever experienced in my entire life. So you can't slide out of the seats. You kind of have to like step a leg over to get your thigh out of the seats. And then it's not. And then as you're trying to scooch out, you're scooching over this giant bolster. It is.
They had that in the M2 as well.
It's too much. It's too much.
But at least the Type-Rrrr doesn't have the groin support.
Yeah, it doesn't have that. If anything, it should have groin support. I demand as much groin support as possible in every vehicle I'm driving.
Fully supported groin. I mean, I guess that's a fair request.
All of our groins to be completely supported.
Well, your groin is not going to be supported in this. Sorry, but your butt and your thighs really, really, really supported. So that was the only thing. It was the bolstering on the seat is a little bit too much. It's just a little bit too much. Too much bolster. Like, ease up on the bolster. And pricing wise, the one that I have as equipped, $44,385. Would you like to guess destination, gentlemen?
Ooh. 1095.
Sam?
I will go with 1096.
Yeah.
Robbie got it exactly on the money. It's $10.95. It's exactly $10.95.
Yeah. And I appreciate
Robbie.
that you went 1096. That's my favorite part.
I know. Like, you couldn't have done better than what you both did right there. Yeah, so when you think about that $44,385, it's certainly not the cheapest version of the Civic that you can buy, but it's also a really good price in that for what you're getting. If you're looking for that sporty, fun little hatchback, it's got, because I like that it takes all the pieces you want. It's a reasonable price. It's not outrageous. It's a comfortable, aside from the bolstering of the seat, interior when you get out of the car, interior that's actually attractive. And like, my husband is your height, Robbie, and he was fine. Like, he didn't feel like he was totally squished in it. It looks the part of a sporty little hatch. It drives the part of a sporty little hatch, but it also does it in a way that it is not harsh at all, which is something I know that that's a sports car thing, that they can be a little bit harsh, especially a hatchback like this. This is not a harsh ride. Even taking it over really rough roads, unless I hit like a nasty Boston pothole, this was actually really nice to drive. So
nasty Boston pothole
nasty Boston
is the name
potholes.
of my new ska band.
Okay, that works. So I was a fan. I loved it. I really had a great time. I'm sad that they're going to take away from me tomorrow. I don't want them to take it. I really like this one.
So have you driven the GR Corolla?
I want to say I have not. I don't believe I have. I have to think.
What about the
I think you'd
Golf
remember.
R, the current Golf R?
I believe I've driven the Golf R. Golf R feels like I drove at one point.
Yeah.
So Golf R versus Type R, what would be your preference?
So I feel like the Golf R is a little bit more like, neither one of these cars is roomy, Sam, but I feel like it's got a little bit.
I don't know.
More
The Civic's pretty roomy. I mean, we've got
some room.
This
you
is
can
so
fit a
low
pair of
anyway.
adults in the back seat without any issues.
Yeah, I feel like the Golf R is a better passenger car if you're going to people in it a lot, where I feel like the Civic is more, I think it might be more fun. It certainly looks cool. I mean,
Civic is more fun.
Like the Civic is more fun, and like style, my gosh, it just parked in your driveway with a giant wing that you don't want to accidentally grab. It looks amazing. That red interior looks amazing. Like, if you don't buy a car like this because you want it to fly under the radar, you want to be like, look what I bought. This one does that.
Well, on the other hand, there are advantages to flying under the radar, especially when there's actual radar around.
Well, yes. But one always obeys the law when one is driving. I don't know why that would be an issue for you, Sam.
What do you do?
I mean, it's a hypothetical.
Hypothetically, if you were one who is inclined to get a little heavy on that gas pedal,
just in case you were driving around rural Ohio, and suddenly, you're going down this road and the speed limit suddenly changes from 65 to 30, with almost no notice, So in a scenario like that, being able to fly under the radar.
Speed trap.
Yeah. Yes. As an example, as a hypothetical example.
Then you would want it to fly under the radar. Then you want the Golf.
Well, I mean, I loved driving the previous gen Type R, but I wasn't crazy about the way it looked, even though I liked the overall design of the previous gen Civic better than the current generation Civic. Because I think, when I drove the current one earlier this year or last year, I did complain a little bit about, I thought that the design had gotten a little bland.
Yes.
And in this case, I mean, they make the Type R.
There's just no pleasing you, Sam.
Well, no, actually, in this case, I think the Type R is just enough more aggressive looking than the standard Civic that I would actually prefer driving this one to the previous gen. Because I thought that the previous gen was a little bit over the top.
This one doesn't look
from inside, from the driver's seat, you don't notice
a little too stabby.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the last one was a little overdone. Like, there's some, I don't know, there's some fashion when she's like, when you get dressed, you should look at all your accessories and take off one accessory because you have too many things. They didn't do that with the previous gen. They're like, all the pieces. Like, somebody look and take one of these things off. I think they did that this time around.
Previous gen. It was the wing. My wife came out, she looked at the car and we were driving it, and she's like, if you took this thing off, this thing would look great.
Well, and in fact, in Europe,
that was the accessory you needed to take off.
In Europe, you could actually buy the Type R without the wing. They never sold that.
Really?
They never sold it here that way. And I did see one on the road here. I saw a black Type R without the wing on it.
They probably took it off.
Driving down the highway here in the Detroit area, and it looked so much better.
Yeah.
But the thing about the wing, even though the wing looks a little outrageous, when you're looking at the car from outside, if you look at the curvature of the wing and the curvature of the back window, it's all set up so that from the driver's seat, you do not see the wing at all.
It's totally true. Like I thought, when I looked at it in the driveway, I thought this is going to be miserable to see out of because I'm not. You can totally. You don't even know it's there when you.
And that's part of why it's up so high.
Yeah.
So yeah, big fan of Type R's. I had a chance to drive one a little bit, do some hot laps in it at M1 Concourse in June before the Detroit Grand Prix, and had a blast with it. This fantastic car. Can't wait to get one for a week-long review.
It was really fun. I was very happy that I was home for this long to drive it. I'm like, I was only gone very brief. I'm like, this is working out just fine.
And as a daily driver, I would much prefer to have this over the GR Corolla, at least the Morizo edition. I'll have to get my hands on a standard GR Corolla. Maybe I'll go and borrow when I get a Type R, I'll go and borrow my neighbor's GR.
There you go. You can do a back, like drive a road, drive the exact same thing.
That's such good cars.
I know, right?
Job.
It's a pretty cool car. Like my neighbor has. No, one of them has. Now they're family cars. Everybody has a family car except for one who just bought a cute little Mazda.
I'm very happy to report that there was a family gathering where I found out that one of my cousins who works for Mercedes has a Honda Odyssey because he has kids. My other cousin has a V60.
Nice.
Driving a V60. But
my favorite Volvo.
But he's getting a Polestar too now. And then the other one who actually has a big ranch, he has a big F-250, but he actually has a ranch with like where he has to
if you're going to actually use it as what it's intended for.
He does he does the thing. Yeah. Sometimes occasionally I'll go up there and I get to hang out. Mostly I just get to ride ATVs.
Excellent. Hey everybody, it's summertime and that means the weather's fine and it's time to have your friends over to hang out in the backyard and share some good food and some good times. And you probably don't want to be running out to the grocery store and getting a whole bunch of stuff. So HelloFresh can help you out with some crowd-pleasing summer eats. From a backyard bratwurst bar to tangy key lime pie, HelloFresh Market makes summer entertaining a cinch. It's peak time for summer produce, and you don't always have time to get to the local farmer's market. But HelloFresh can help you out with that by making sure you get the things you need to help adorn that meal with all your friends. The ingredients travel from the farm to your door in less than 7 days for quality that you can taste. And did you know that HelloFresh also offers more than just delicious dinners? It's now easier than ever to skip that extra grocery store run by adding snacks, sides, and more to your weekly order. Simply shop HelloFresh Market and take your pick from the curated selection of over 100 items. In our household, I don't usually do the cooking. It's usually my wife. But with HelloFresh, it's made it so much easier for me to pick up some of the slack too and do some of the cooking. Recently, I made some crispy kickin' cayenne chicken cutlets that we got from HelloFresh. The box came full with all of the ingredients we needed. It had fresh potatoes in there, carrots, some chicken, all the seasonings and everything, and a nice, easy to read, easy to follow instruction card. And in less than 30 minutes, I had the full meal done for both my wife and myself, and it was fantastic. So why don't you try out HelloFresh by going to HelloFresh.com/wheelbearings50 and use the code wheelbearings50. That's wheelbearings50 for 50% off plus free shipping. So remember, go to HelloFresh.com/wheelbearings50 and use the code wheelbearings50. That's the number 50 at the end for 50% off to get your first HelloFresh order with free shipping. Remember, HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit service. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. All right, Robbie, what have you been driving?
So I've been driving something I didn't think I would be able to drive comfortably ever. I've been in previous generations of this vehicle, and my head's just like hitting the top, hitting that pole, hitting that bar, hitting something, or it's just too high, and I'm like looking at the visor, sitting in the car. But I called one in and it's here. The Mazda MX-5, aka the Mazda Miata.
Miata. Why
The
don't they call it
answer.
Miata anymore? Everyone else calls it a Miata.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I figured
if you,
Sam would know this. I have
Yeah,
lazy
Sam,
Robbie.
explain why have they changed?
Well-
Like we all like Miata. I don't care about the naming conventions. Why get rid of that?
I don't know. I mean, I think they're just trying to be consistent globally because Miata was primarily a North American thing. In other like in Europe, it was always just MX-5, and actually in the first couple of generations in Japan, it was actually branded as the Yunos Roadster because Mazda had a couple of different brands in Japan, so it wasn't even branded as a Mazda over there. But now it's just Mazda MX-5 globally.
But it's Miata.
Yes,
It's the
it'll
Miata.
always be a Miata. And you talk to people from Mazda, they refer to it as the Miata.
Is it
The
Miata?
Miata.
Yeah.
So, so I have the MX-5. I have the MX-5 Club, which is sort of the kind of the what do you call it, middle of the road version. And it is fantastic. There's no room for anything. I tried to load it up with for my band had a show on Friday.
Oh my God! What would fit it? What could you actually load?
So I went
Fit as
to
guitar picks.
the picks in the little center console. That was all the space there was.
Okay, so on Wednesday when I got the car, I had band practice. But for another band where I play the bass, and the bass amp is at the studio, but I had my bass amp at home because I needed to practice, and it fits in the passenger seat. So there you go.
The bass amp or the bass?
In
The bass, not the bass amp. The on the for the show on Friday, I end up going to our space on Thursday with our car with the Kona, so I can load all the stuff up. And then I got home. I'm like, I wonder if I can take the Mazda. Can I band the Mazda Miata? Not really.
Shocked. I'm shocked.
So if you're a singer, yeah, it's totally fine. If you're a singer, or if you're a
you
guitarist,
can fit a microphone in there.
yeah, if you're a guitarist and you have a small amp, like one of those cubes, they're smaller, little smaller amps. Yes. If you have a slightly larger amp, like I have a Fender Princeton Chorus, it is like a half inch too big to fit. It's a half inch too tall because I put it in the trunk. I try to close it, it's all clunk. It's like right before it latches. I'm like, all right, well, let me bend it. No, clunk. Nope. Let me do
Bungee cord.
clunk. Nope. Clunk.
Keep
nope.
trying to adjust it a half an inch at a time.
I can't try to. Because I really wanted the photo of like, yes, you can band the Mazda Miata if you're a guitarist, and you have. I mean, it's like a medium size.
Did you have the soft top or the RF?
I had the soft top.
Okay.
Yeah, RF. Come on.
I know. Just asking.
Does anyone know what the difference? I know what the difference between the two, but sales wise, soft top versus the RF.
I don't know, and
I wonder.
They don't break it out in their sales.
They don't break
numbers.
it out. I wasn't sure.
I'll have to ask.
I'm curious if I would imagine the
What's
soft
the
top
take
would
rate?
rule. Like, what's the take rate for the RF? I mean, it's fine, but like if you're buying a Miata, the law should dictate that you do not buy the RF. You buy the soft top as God intended.
Yeah.
The way God.
Well, less so.
There's no argument.
No. What I was going to say was with the previous generation, the NC, they had the retractable hardtop on that one.
Yeah.
Which was different from what they do now with the RF. The RF is more of a Targa. The retractable hardtop, like Stephanie Brinley has one, and that one, the profile of the hardtop is exactly the same as the soft top, and it folds down in 3 pieces and it fits into the same space. So when the top is down, it is no different from the soft top. Yeah, it is like driving a true Miata.
I love Stephanie, and I'm going to give her half credit for that one. But I still think it should be.
Maybe if you want to drive it year round in Michigan, having that retractable hardtop on the NC Miata was actually pretty nice. I had one of those.
Cool. I'll have to look it up.
The current one is like a what do you call? Oh, the car I owned, De La Soul, a Del Sol.
Yeah, you're right. It is more like the Civic Del Sol.
It's like the Del Sol, which I love that car. Its biggest problem is it was front wheel drive instead of rear wheel drive. That car was outstanding though. Anyway, so MX-5, I do fit in it. 6'3", seats low enough where I can see. The they don't have that little pole, that little metal rod anymore in that position in the soft top. In fact, soft top's it's actually pretty. There's no like sort of cross beams that you can see. So yeah, and it's really easy to open and close. It's just like one latch, clack clack, shove it back really quick. You can do it while you're sitting at a light. You need to close it, hit a little button, click, grab it. You just got to do the little latch, click. Super easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And so I feel like I need to like break up this one for next week as well. I haven't had a chance to do any performance driving with it because I went to band and then
you spent all your time trying to band the Miata. So
I kept all my time trying to band. So today's schedule is after the podcast. I'll eat some more toast and then I'll go for a drive around the Bay Area in it. I really like it. The infotainment is weird. It just feels like infotainment system. It feels like it's just a little bit better.
The car is the infotainment system.
Yeah, the car is, and you don't care because you plug in your phone and it works. The problem is sometimes the touchscreen works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why. That's the weirdest thing right now with the car is sometimes I can I can touch it, and sometimes it doesn't seem to understand that my hand is touching the screen. Yeah, it's very weird. But yeah, whatever. Who cares? Because I'm having so much fun driving the car. The rest of the car is.
You can forgive this little touchscreen business.
Yeah, it's very much like like my BRZ, where it's like, oh, you have some knobs for your temperature. You can listen to some music. There's a volume knob. Okay, everything else, you don't need anything else. That's it. And I'm a big supporter of that. And so yeah, it's I've been getting, and you're getting all this fun. Like I'm getting like 30.4 miles per gallon right now. Oof. It's value. Is what we're talking.
Forget the fun. It's all about the value of this.
It's all process. About the value.
Buy a Miata, stay on budget.
So we took it last night to go see Beck, and we're driving the car, and my wife's like, I'm like, oh yeah, and she's like, well, so she's like, oh, it's really small. I'm like, yeah, but it's really fun to drive. It's like our BRZ except smaller. And she's like, oh, well, she's like, now I just feel like you're being mean. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you're telling me all these cool things. I can't drive this car. She's like, and it has a manual transmission. I just feel like you're being mean, taking me around this car that I'm not allowed to drive.
Neener.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, sweetie. And yeah, it is really fun to drive. On the way there, we had the top up. On the way back at night, it was warm. We had the top down. It was great. We both talked about how much we miss having a convertible. Yeah, no, I really like it. I'm gonna go out and drive it today. We did get this one does come option with the Brembo BBS Recaro package, which has some wheels, the heated seats, which I don't know. Heated seats are kind of cool on a convertible because it
has some wheels. Do you not get wheels if you don't get the package?
You don't get wheels. It has 17-inch wheels. It has some some red brakes, Brembo front brakes, the calipers. The sport seats are comfortable. It's heated apparently. It's been hot, so I haven't actually tried it. But I do remember driving around in my car when it's like 45 degrees just with the heater on and just wee. Or when it's really hot, we're like driving around with the air conditioning on while the top's down, just yelling, like, just destroying the world. But having the nicest time. So the starting price for the club is $31,550. That Brembo package is $4,500. I don't need
pretty at least. Do they look cool?
Yeah, I guess.
Like bright red brakes or something.
I would like to try out the regular seats, just to see if that's sort of the big draw right there is the regular seats. So the total price was $37,510. It's not inexpensive, but it's a good value if you're just getting it without
by today's standards. It is surprisingly affordable.
Yes, it's surprisingly affordable for the fun you're getting. The value to fun is out of this world.
The value to fun.
So far, again, I haven't done. I am not. I'm sure it's going to be great doing some performance driving on some back roads. But just driving around, you're like, hee.
And
I'm just happy that I fit for the most part. My knees are pretty, my legs aren't as extended as I would typically like. There's a little bit more bend in my knees than usual. But I could live with that, to be honest. Today when I do I'll be driving it for hours and hours and hours. So next week I can tell you, okay, so it's great if you drive for 2 hours and you're tall. Or next week I'm like, you know what, you can deal with it. I think you just sort of. Maybe.
I think you're going to deal with it. I think that my gut instinct is I don't even unless you were so squishy physically, could not get into the car. I'm going to say you just deal with it and enjoy it because it's so much fun.
Couldn't get into the hard tops before. I got into the ones in that pole just hitting right smack in the head.
Okay.
And I remember with the previous generation Miata, like Mazda was like, I'm like, well, do you want one? Do you want some? I'm like, I'm not going to be comfortable in it. There's not really. Like the whole time, I'm going to be smacking. Every time I hit a bump, my head's going to be smacking the roof, or I'm going to have my neck's going to be crooked.
You're going to be concussed by the time you get
a hard top. And they're like, well, you could come down to LA. Next time you come down to LA, hit us up, and then just drive around with the top down the whole time. And I was just like, I mean, that's great. That sounds like a lot of fun.
But
I don't spend as much time in LA as I think people, would assume I do. I live in California.
It's just down the block from you, right?
I really don't actually spend all that much time in LA. I lived there a couple times, but no. So, when it came up and it was like, well, we need a Mazda for the side. We need a Miata for the side. And I was like, well, let me see what they got. And they said we had. And I'm like, okay, well, they'll send it in, and I'll do my best. And it's going to be warm the next week or so it'll be fine. And I got in and I sat up and I'm like, oh, they fixed it. They fixed the thing. Let's people. So you guys want to figure out what you want to guess the delivery, processing, and handling fee?
I'm going $995.
$996.
Oh. $1,065.
Son of a...
Sam won.
Of course he did.
The weird number, 65. Just throw the extra.
What is it? 90. How much was it?
1,065. So
it's kind of an odd number.
It is. It should have been $9. Just throw $30 in there, Mazda.
Yeah.
You deserve the extra $30 for what you did with the soft top, where Robbie fits in it. So good job.
Robbie fits in it.
So today I'll go drive it around. I'll take some photos and then I'll report back on what it is when you're really tall and you're in a Miata with the 6-speed. You can't. There is one thing with the manuals that.
Yes.
Because my knees are bent more than usual, the clutch action is a little bit different than when I'm driving my BRZ. The clutch is fine. There's nothing wrong with the clutch of the car. It's just that my knees are bent more than I'm usually when I'm sitting in a car.
Huh. That makes sense. You still were comfortable though? It wasn't uncomfortable?
No, I mean, not yet. It's been I've been in it for I think the most an hour driving it. So we'll do some long, some more time behind the wheel, and we'll see how that works out this afternoon.
Fair.
And for what it's worth, you can actually get. I'm looking at the Mazda website. You can get the Sport, the Miata Sport, starting at $28,000. So
that's the entry. The one I got was the middle.
Yeah, but all the most important stuff, which is the base car, is the same. You're not going to get the Brembo brakes for $28,000. But you don't really need those because this thing is so light. Unless you are planning to take it to track days, then in which case you're going to be spending a lot more money anyway on tires and other stuff.
Right. There's all sorts of other expenses.
If you want it as a daily driver, the most important stuff, which is the core of the car, is there for $28,000, or 29 and change, including the delivery charge. Yeah. So that's actually, still remarkably affordable by modern standards. Right. And it's well worth it.
Yeah. The big draw for the club is you get the Sport Tune suspension and you get the bigger wheels, but I don't care about the bigger wheels, to be honest. That just means you have less sidewall. Boo! And you get a better stereo system, which is when you're driving around with a convertible, you kind of need some nice audio because you got to turn it up for rocking and rolling.
But again, with the top down, the audio system doesn't matter so much anyway.
You're just screaming along anyway.
And on the, even though it doesn't actually say Miata anywhere on the car anymore,
it says it on the thing.
On the website, it does say Mazda MX-5 Miata. Yeah.
Yeah, it still says Miata. Mazda, because you know why? SEO.
SEO. If they took that off, it would be like, where'd the car go? Oh my God, they discontinued it. Rage, anger.
Yeah. And Nicole, I dropped a link to the review that I wrote back in 2008 of the hardtop, so you can see what it looks like. It's in the chat.
Wait, let's see. I'm gonna look.
It's like a transformer.
Wait, chat.
Yeah, no, it's actually really cool.
Oh yes, I see a little red. Let's see. Wait, clicking. Ooh, okay, that's cute. I like that. Okay, I can kind of get. Okay,
and with the top down, it looks just like a soft top.
I like
but then you get the in the first two generations, the NA and the NB, they did offer an optional removable hardtop, so that if you're going to drive it in the wintertime, you could put the hardtop on there, to keep everything sealed out, which was nice. It was very handy, but it was kind of a pain in the ass because you had to lift it off and you had to store it somewhere when you weren't using it. And the NC kind of had the best of both worlds, and I kind of wish that they went with the same approach for the ND, the current generation.
With that top up, you don't even know that that's a hard top. That's fantastic, and it looks. Actually, this looks really good. Okay, this one I can get behind. I like it.
Okay, glad to hear
revise
that.
my opinion. If you're getting that, but if you're getting the new one, I'm sticking with my should be soft top.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, I had the Genesis GV70 Electrified. Not EV, but electrified. But it is an EV. It's fantastic. I mean, I like the GV70 anyway, and this one is even better. So basically what you get here is you get a GV70 that they have taken the electric propulsion system from the GV60 Performance. So it's the more powerful system, 429 horsepower. And they put that underneath a GV70. So you get the extra room of the GV70 versus the GV60. Obviously it's a little bit heavier, but it's not crazy heavy. I was looking up the specs earlier. The GV70 EV weighs just shy of 5,000 pounds, which for comparison, a comparable premium electric crossover, 2-row crossover, might be, say, the Cadillac Lyriq, which weighs about 800 pounds more than this. And GM really needs to get their act together when it comes to weight and EVs. They've got some work to do. Now, granted, the Cadillac does have a larger battery and more range, so it'll go a little over 300 miles on a charge. But it is, the 236 mile EPA rated range of the GV70 Electrified I think is more than adequate for most people's daily driving. Plus the GV70, because it is the eGMP platform, if you can find a properly functioning Electrify America charging station, it works amazing. I actually had a fantastic Electrify America experience while I had the GV70.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. I said it again, and clearly my things weren't coming through my headphones right. I thought you said you had a fantastic Electrify.
I did in fact say I had a fantastic Electrify America charging experience with the GV70. I went to my local EA station, and I got there with about 35% state of charge. So it's not like, I had to drain the battery down to, sub 10% to get the maximum charge rate. I plugged it in at 35% state of charge. Boom. It went up to 242 kilowatts.
Wow. That's over.
Wow. That's pretty good.
It stayed at 242 kilowatts until it was at about 52% state of charge. And then it ramped down a little bit. But even at 80% state of charge, it was still cranking along at about 140 kilowatts.
Really?
Yes. It was great. This is the way it should be for everybody when you're charging.
Yes. Yeah. That's what everybody expects.
I now know wants. Like the EA stations, which ones are there's the one that's next to the supermarket. They always say, oh, the speed of these stations has been reduced in order to increase in reliability or some BS.
Some nonsense.
Yeah, some nonsense. The ones over by the IHOP. work a little bit better, but those ones are always busy. And then
head to the IHOP, get some pancakes, pick your choice of syrup, charge your
the
car.
ones over in Novato or over in Marin, those are all 350s. Those ones all work great, except it's on the other side of the bay. But those are also getting busy. The Bay Area has become, because everyone just keeps buying EVs here. We're starting to see issues like, when like 5 years ago with Teslas, where people are having to wait in order to charge their EVs because so many people have EVs. So yeah, they're going to need we're going to need a bigger boat of EV chargers. And the ones down the street from my house, the EV Go ones, it's been like 18 months. They're all installed now. I keep driving by.
You're just
and they're still not turned on. I was just like, and they have the Ultium, how like EV
the
Go
Ultium charge.
The Ultium charge, so they all have the little Ultium thing, and they're still not available. I'm like, well, that's very
just a giant tease every time you go by.
Yeah, they're like the Lyric, like they're out there, but you're just not going to see them.
There's some out there somewhere.
Someone somewhere out there has a Lyric.
So, yeah, I had a great charging experience with this thing. It was really fast. It worked flawlessly. Home charging also worked great. The size, I like the size of the GV70. It's not too big, and it's good for, certainly good for 4 adults. If they're not too broad shouldered, you can fit 3 in the back. Good amount of cargo space in the back. Like we went out to the lake with Daisy, and I put the paddleboard and a couple of beach chairs and assorted other detritus that we needed for the lake in the back. No problem at all. Fit all that stuff in the cargo area behind the back seat. Daisy had the back seat to herself with a suitable cover over the nice Napa leather, because the GV70 I had the Prestige package on it, so it has Napa leather interior. So that worked out really well. The only issue I really had with this thing was, for some reason, the Android Auto kept disconnecting. So I'd be driving along and suddenly Android Auto would it's like your phone was unplugged, and I'd have to reach down, unplug it and plug it back in, which was kind of a pain in the neck. And as of right now, none of the Hyundai Motor Group vehicles have support for wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. They all still have to be plugged in by a USB cable.
Genesis. Because Hyundai will do it. It's so weird. It's all over the place.
The ones I've driven, all you have to be plugged in still.
Yeah, I've driven some Hyundais. The Hyundais will do it. The Kias don't.
Okay.
And it's all based on trim level. It's like this. It's like this crazy, like a beautiful mind, like build like chalkboard.
A beautiful
of which ones will do wireless and which won't. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good luck figuring it out.
Anyway, mine did not support wireless charging.
Okay.
It had a wireless charging pad, but it doesn't have wireless smartphone projection. And so that was kind of a pain in the neck. But overall, the car, it's really comfortable. The base price on the GV70 EV is $65,850. Mine with the Prestige package, which adds another $6,800, and I'm not 100% sure if I'd actually spend nearly $7,000 on this. But that gets you Napa leather seating surfaces, leatherette wrapped upper instrument panel, so it looks like leather on the top of the dashboard, but it's not. Microfiber suede headliner, so that's similar to what was on the seats in your Type R, Nicole. Mm-hmm. The 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, and this is I don't know if you've seen this digital instrument cluster they have in some of the Genesis models. It's a 3D display, so when you look at it, it looks like it's 3-dimensional, but sometimes.
Yeah.
but it only looks that way sometimes.
I've seen that. You do this like, you do want to touch it. Like, I swear I thought that was 3D. Now it's
it looks like it has depth
happening?
to it.
Yes. And then suddenly it doesn't.
And then sometimes you look at it and it just looks flat, and it's like, and I can't figure out why. There's no rhyme or reason to when it looks flat versus 3-dimensional.
Just to keep you on your toes,
I guess. Yeah. It's got heads-up display, which is nice. It's got the Lexicon premium audio system, active noise control, heated second row seats, heated steering wheel, and manual rear door shades for nearly $7,000, which brings the grand total to $74,350. Guesses on delivery charge?
$1,495, which is going to be too high, I'm sure. But that's
$1.
Of course,
Robbie gets it again.
How much was it?
$1,125.
Oh, $1,125. Okay.
The GV70 EV has one other advantage over all of the other EVs from the Hyundai Motor Group. It is assembled in Alabama at Hyundai's factory in Alabama.
So does it get the discounts, rebates?
You'll be eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit. Because it is manufactured here. It goes through final assembly here, and they get the batteries from SK in Georgia. It's the same 77 kilowatt hour battery pack that's in the Ioniq 5 and the GV60 and the EV6, which, like I say, is more than adequate. Keeps the weight to a reasonable amount. It's got plenty of performance. It's got a boost button on the steering wheel, although unlike the GV60, which has it, I think it's in the lower right-hand quadrant. There's a button there near the steering wheel hub. Excuse me. The GV70 has it in between the spokes, the bottom spokes on the steering wheel, and that gets you 10 seconds of maximum performance. If you really need to accelerate to merge onto the highway, you can hit that boost button as you're going down the on-ramp, and you'll be right up to speed in no time flat. But even without that, it's still plenty quick all the time. So I really like this. I like the way it looks. I like the way it drives. I was very happy with this car. It's a little more than I would generally be willing to pay for a car.
It looks so good though. I love how it looks.
Yeah,
it does look great.
It looks good on the outside. It looks good on the inside. It feels like luxury.
Yeah, it feels very premium. Everything is really well put together. And it's very enjoyable to drive. So if you're looking for a premium 2-row midsize crossover, the GV70 Electrified is an excellent option that you should be considering. So
I like it. I love that car. I think it's great.
Yeah, me too. So with that, let's move into some of the stuff that happened this week. So Nicole, I believe you went to Salt Lake City this week.
I did. I went to Salt Lake City to see the new Toyota Land Cruiser, which I like. It's funny. My first impulse when I saw this was like, yay, Toyota Land Cruiser. This looks great. It's a hybrid now. It's their iForce Max hybrid, which is sort of like the more responsive hybrid, which they've got on, what do they have on the Grand Highlander? I feel like it's somewhere else. Is it on the Sequoia?
So this is basically the same system that is on the Tundra and Sequoia, because it's for longitudinal engines, rear 4-wheel drive. And actually, I think it's the exact same powertrain that's going to be in the Tacoma, because it's the 4-cylinder, right?
Right, right. So, I mean, and weirdly, some people are really upset about the hybrid thing. I thought that was great. I think,
why they're upset that it's there, or
they were upset that was your only option. Like, it was funny looking at the comments. There was a significant pushback from people like, it's just a hybrid. I'm like, why would that make you mad? It's not like they're making you buy an EV.
People just want. They just want to be angry about something.
They want to be cranky.
It's different.
Yeah.
No, my dad had a V8 long block. I got 2 miles per gallon, and every 3 days you had to adjust the carburetors, and we loved it.
And it vapor locked whenever the temperature got over 70 degrees.
But fine, my God,
it's all fine. Lock. Don't even.
I think this is good. I think it's a good. I think it's a nice entry. I like what they did with it, and I like that it's going to start in the mid 50s. Now, if you saw pictures from the launch or from the reveal, they brought like 2 out on stage. One was your mid 50, and it was funny as one person from Toyota, I'm like, that's a good price. I said, but those aren't both it. He's like, no, that's mid 50. That one most definitely not. So it's like,
did they say how much that one is?
He did not, but he wasn't trying to be cagey. He said, I don't have the price. I literally don't have the price on that. And he said, just to get the team in charge with pricing to say, can we give them something? They're like, say starts in mid-50s. Okay. Like apparently that was pulling teeth to get that pricing commitment. So so it's going to start there. And I feel like it's going to, depending on how fancy pants you want to get, it's going to have a little bit of a spread, but I like it. I think it's a nice change. I think it looks, I feel like it does a nice job of making this look more modern and making it like it takes all these great styling cues from where SUVs are going to look rugged but without being so much like in your face that it's like, I can go off road. I can do this. It's still a nice looking vehicle, just, sitting on the road. I liked it. I'm excited to drive this. I'm excited to see it come out. I think people overall, except for the cranky people who are cranky about everything, are going to be happy with this. What did you guys think looking at this?
I like it, and I mean, this is obviously, very much the same vehicle as the Lexus GX that we saw in June.
Mm-hmm.
But with a 4-cylinder, with a 4-cylinder hybrid system instead of the V6 turbo hybrid that's in the GX, and obviously a different front fascia. But otherwise, the rest of it is the same. And frankly, I like the front end of this one better than the GX.
I love how the front end of this.
So here's the question: Do you want the round headlights or the rectangular headlights? Which
round.
one? Which do you prefer?
Round.
Yeah, it's a round.
Round is the only answer to that. Much like the soft top Miata, round is the
only answer. Because that's the base model is the round, and the mid tier has the rectangular. Don't even buy the mid tier.
Yeah, just
nobody buy it.
Well, it's I think I like the round because it is. I love the front end styling, but it's very square. Everything is a little angular and very square.
Yeah, you need something.
So, like there's that panel that looks really cool. Like underneath the headlights, it's like a body panel that's the same color, like body color little piece right there. It's very square when you put it with the headlights. It's very boxy. When you put it with the round headlights, it just looks amazing. Like it I don't know, it does something cool to the front of the car.
Yeah,
the round headlights.
Yeah, I think it looks better with the round headlights.
Yeah, definitely.
Everybody wins with round headlights.
And did they say when this is going to go on sale?
Next spring.
Next spring, okay.
So nothing really concrete,
now.
just spring. So we got a little ways to go before we're going to get our hands on this one.
So my guess is the upper grades, that are going to be, with the rectangular headlights, it's probably going to be, max out somewhere between 65 and 70 because they've got to slot this in below the GX, which I think is going to be mid 70s, so you don't want too much overlap with the GX.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's going to do well. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, no, I think it'll do good. And it's nice to have, a more reasonable sized Land Cruiser back.
I wish it was just a scooch smaller. Like the front,
you think it's too big.
So like for a 4-cylinder, I mean that front is really long.
Well, I guess during
if you look at the picture of the interior of the packaging for the engine, like here's the engine, and then there's like almost like 40% of what the engine takes up of just like stuff.
Well, the engine is mostly back behind the front axle.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in front of that engine.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it in profile, there's not much front overhang, which is good, for something that's purported to be an off-roader, so this is, to some degree going to be competing with Wrangler and Bronco, so you're going to have decent approach angles with this thing. It's not, I saw the GX in person, it's not, this thing's not huge. It's not small, but it's not huge either. It's pretty. I think it's pretty similar in size to a Bronco, or a four-door Wrangler.
Just a scooch. I mean, you just cut off right there.
It felt a little bigger than a Wrangler too. It felt a skosh bigger, but then it's got because the Wrangler has a different more round edges.
Yeah.
They're still both toasters, but I feel like the Wrangler's a little rounder.
Yeah, just a little bit right there.
Slice. But I think during the presentation, I think they did show images, some teaser images of a couple of other upcoming EVs from Toyota, right?
FJ Cruiser.
Yeah, one of which was the not the FJ Cruiser. I forget what they call it now. It's like the
Let's just call it the baby
the
FJ Cruiser.
It's an electric, custom. I think it's custom cruiser is what they called it.
I missed that.
So
Okay.
it's basically it's like when back in at the end of 2021, when Toyota had a presentation and they showed off like 15 electric concepts and said, this is what we're working on for the next several years. One of them was this little FJ Cruiser, like, more like a Bronco Sport sized.
It was small. It was smaller. It was tiny, and everyone just kept calling it the baby FJ Cruiser.
Right. And
it's like Baby Yoda, but that's not really its name.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that they showed in the presentation. And that was, they said that's coming. So, you'll have a small electric off-roader from Toyota coming.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
For all the non-off-roading I do, which it'd be fun to have it, but I probably wouldn't buy it.
As long as they don't call it Grogu, I'm okay.
Well, that's his name, okay.
Baby Yoda is his name. This Grogu stuff.
Baby Yoda. It's not even the same person.
Baby Yoda.
He's Baby Yoda.
I'll fight you, Robbie.
I'm very excited to see when they put the plug-in hybrid on the Land Cruiser, and then it'll go up against the 4xe. The 4xe sound like gangbusters.
Yeah.
And the idea that you could like take your Toyota and drive around all quiet like in the mountains.
All stealthy.
You can sneak up on deer. on cougars.
Well, speaking of plug-in hybrids and at least Toyota in the larger sense, they finally made an announcement this week about the Lexus RX 450h Plus, which is the plug-in hybrid version of the new RX. That's finally coming. Last year when they did the RX Drive program in Santa Barbara, they had a European spec 450h Plus there for us to just do short drives with, and tried it out, and it was fine. It was pretty uneventful. But they
now America gets that uneventful fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we didn't have all we could do was like drive around on the roads of the winery. We couldn't actually take it out on the public roads. Yeah. So, it's hard to tell, how good it is, but basically what you've got here is the powertrain from the RAV4 Prime and the NX plug-in hybrid. I forget the NX 458. Is it also 450h Plus, whatever?
H is hybrid, Plus is plug-in.
Yeah.
Plus is plug-in, yeah.
So 2.5 liter 4-cylinder with the electric motor. It's like a little over 300 horsepower, which is actually pretty good because it's all-wheel drive. 0 to 60 time in 6.2 seconds. Again, not too bad. And 35-mile electric range. So, for most people, I think that'll be pretty good.
If you like the RAV4, like the technology in it, but just not fancy enough for you.
Yeah.
You demand more fancy. Yeah. Then you can get
more fancy.
If you demand more fancy, the Lexus RX 450h Plus is your car.
That's a lot of 450.
What's the Venza have?
The Venza is just a regular hybrid.
It's
just a regular hybrid, yeah. Because the Venza is just a really nice. It's just like a trim level of the RAV4 as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's a less chunk. It's a sleeker looking RAV4.
But it still just has the hybrid. They haven't had the plug-in. So now I feel like
they need a Venza Prime.
They need the Venza Prime, and that'll be a little bit nicer than but if you really want to go nice, so you have the RAV4, which is nice. Then you have the Venza, which is nicer, and then the RX 450h Plus, which is that's expert mode when you're going for fanciness.
So the RX
is Toyota lineup.
Yeah, the RX is going to start at $70,080. Again, kind of a strange price. $70,080. Why not just
what's going on?
$70,000?
Oh no, that includes delivery, processing, and handling fee.
You're right.
Okay. So they're putting everything in there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to trick you. It's like it's $65,000 and it's $4,000.
But actually, to get all the things you need on it, spend an extra $5,000.
Yeah.
And it'll be available in the U.S. by the end of the year. So there's that.
It's going to be a Lexus December to remember, people.
Oh yeah. What about Toyotathon? When is Toyotathon?
Toyotathon.
Is that summer? Is Toyotathon summer?
I feel like
I think Toyotathon is summer. It's usually like August. It's the end of the traditional model year when they're trying to get rid of all the current model year stuff before the new stuff shows up. But now stuff shows up.
Toyotathon
launches all year round.
This is last year. Last year it was November 14th to January 3rd.
Wow.
It was in the summer.
Oh, maybe. You know what? Because they had problems making cars, though.
Oh, maybe they just didn't have anything to sell. They could
wait a while.
This is last year's Toyotathon. Apparently, this year's Toyotathon has not been announced. No, I'm not seeing it. I'm just seeing last year's Toyotathon.
It just moves around. It's like, one of those holidays.
It's whenever they have some extra stock of cars that they need to move.
Yeah, it's like a Pope. Like they'll the white smoke's coming out. Time for Toyotathon.
Time for Toyotathon. We've chosen the dates.
Meanwhile, Lex is stuck with the December to remember.
They're like, December, there's nothing to do. They don't get any white smoke. Suck it up.
They're like, we know it's going to be in December to remember. Happy Honda days, everybody. Happy Honda days.
So one important thing about the last couple of things we talked about, these were all SUVs and crossovers. And apparently we are poisoning the rest of the world with our
it's like
passion
a
for
that's
utility vehicles
slowly across the globe.
Yeah. So now Volvo has decided to stop selling their sedans and station wagons in the UK. So no more S60s, V60s, or V90s available to British car buyers. All you can get is XCs now from Volvo in the UK, which is it is.
I think this is why there's not going to be another Honda E in the UK, because they're Honda for EVs. They're going to be focusing on SUVs.
Yep.
We've ruined the world with our lifted hatchbacks. That's all. And most of your SUVs are, people. They're lifted hatchbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I own a Hyundai Kona electric lifted hatchback.
Yes. Not really an SUV.
It's not really. I'm not going off-roading in that thing. It's just I'm sitting higher in my lifted hatchback.
Okay. So XC's only in the UK from Volvo now, which is sad. So
I love that V60 so much.
Get the V60 while you still can.
Yeah.
That is the best Volvo.
It is.
You think so?
Looks,
You like
yeah,
that one the
it looks
best?
great.
It looks.
The V90 is great, but I mean, for me at least, it's a little too big. It's a little too long.
A little too big. That's the family
car.
Yeah, the V60 is just the right size.
Yeah, the V90 is the family car. That's That's the Griswolds. That's the very fancy. The Griswolds, the instead of a food additive scientist, he's an architect.
Yeah.
I know too much about the Griswolds.
Way too much.
Wow. Okay.
Another car that will no longer be available for sale, at least here in the U.S., is the Mazda MX-30.
Surprise.
Shocked, I tell you. Shocked.
Amazingly enough, the last time I was in LA, I did see a second one in the wild. That's the second time I've seen one on the road in the Los Angeles area.
I don't know that I ever saw one other than the one that
I've seen. There's one or two around here, but of course Bay Area.
Yeah.
So where I live.
So it makes sense that you would have some.
Yeah, there would be one. It's I like that. Other than the fact that eventually the cork is just going to get all gross. It looks
that
cool.
worries me. It looks so good, but all I can think of is like
it's going to get gross.
I destroy the center console by accident when it's just like plastic. Like, oh God, got crumbs in them. What's going to happen when it's cork?
If they had just given the chassis people, I don't know, 3 more days, it would have been.
3 more days, guys. No, we're announcing it now.
And the chassis guys are like, hey, do you want us to work on that? They're like, nah, man, we got other cars that we're going to actually sell. You go over there and you make those cars awesome.
You do other stuff. We're taking you off this
We're just going to send them into the wild. Enjoy. They're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then we all got it. And we're like, this doesn't drive like a Mazda at all.
This does not feel Mazda-y.
So
nice Mazda-y Mazda.
So what the other thing that means is that we won't be getting the MX-30 plug-in hybrid here, even though that one is available in Europe now, which is the return of the rotary, the Wankel rotary. So
not here.
Not going to be coming here. Nope.
Dun, dun, dun. I had a friend who used to work for Mazda, and he works for Lucid now.
Ooh.
And he would tell me all these great things about the rotary engine. He's like, well, don't, but then he'd always like preface it with things like it wasn't good at. He's like, well, it's not good for this, but it's really good for this other thing. I was like, oh, okay. You're not selling this to me.
See, Autocar also reported on a new VW badge that was recently trademarked. It's a new variant of the GTI badge that replaces the eye with a lightning bolt, which kind of implies that maybe we might be getting an electric GTI coming soon.
Yeah, electric e-Golf, the best electric VW right now.
Yeah, definitely. The e-Golf was great.
ID4 is fine. It's kind of boring. I don't think I've driven the ID4. Is there? No, I haven't driven any other. Oh, well, I mean, I love the bus, but the e-Golf sort of you get that fun golf fun in a car. It's all about the flavor, people.
Yep. So perhaps when the next generation Golf arrives, we might see it. And actually, who knows? Maybe they will drop ID3 and bring back e-Golf, as the replacement for it.
Or just Golf and just make it electric.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you don't even have to call it
most golf carts are electric anyway at this point. Come on, people. Right there. Why do I have to do all the work for Volkswagen?
But this is way better than a cart.
It is significantly better.
You can't. When someone takes
better than a golf cart, that needs to be the tagline in advertising.
Better than a golf cart. Like when someone takes a really hard left turn, you don't fly out of the passenger seat by accident.
All of this in the marketing materials. Are you listening, Volkswagen?
All free for you. Just take it.
Free for the taking.
For you.
All right. The other night, Fisker did a live YouTube stream where I think they called it their product vision presentation or something like that. And they showed off a bunch of new stuff.
It was way more than I was like, oh, Fisker's having a thing, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was like, Fisker's having a thing. You're like, oh no, oh gosh, oh wow. Okay.
And they showed off a bunch of stuff, some of which might even eventually make it to production if they can start delivering the Ocean in any significant volumes.
They've delivered some
Oceans. Yes.
They've delivered some Oceans in Europe. Did he say if they've delivered
here?
I think they have a few here, not very many.
Yeah.
Like 12 or something or 100 or
I mean, they have apparently been having.
They've almost met MX
issues.
30. Well, yeah, that's everyone.
Wait, this says long-awaited Fisker Ocean hits the road. U.S. deliveries begin June 23rd.
Yeah. So they have. There's been some.
Yeah, but I think it's
deliveries.
22. There we go. So
according to this June 23rd announcement.
I think that's more than the number of Hummers that GM delivered in the second quarter. So,
well, there you go.
So
the new guy. Well, not new, but the new company from the guy who's not new.
So they started off the presentation with the Ocean E-Force, which of course if you're going to do a crossover in 2023 and beyond, you have to have an off-roady sort of version of whatever you're selling. Like Ford's got the Explorer Timberline and Nissan's got
something.
I forget. They've got an off-roady version of the Pathfinder.
Pathfinder Trailhead. No.
Where did that come from? Is it Trail Creek?
Trail Creek?
Something like that.
Pathfinder something.
Anyway, everybody's got versions of their crossovers with bigger off-road tires on them, and presumely something Rock Creek edition. You're right. There we go.
I had to find it.
and some stuff that some software tweaks to hopefully make it work a little better off-road. So Fisker showed the Ocean E-Force, which is their off-roady version of the Ocean. Okay.
Fine.
Then the interesting stuff started. They started off with the Ronin, which is a convertible he said it's a 5-seater. I don't know how
let's just
actually
say 4.
fit 3 people in the back seat. But
it's and your 3 model friends, and then your one regular size friend and your 3 model friends.
Oh, your teeny tiny friends.
So there's that. That's coming in at least so far, supposedly in late 2025. And it's supposed to have a 3-motor, 1,000 horsepower drivetrain. Gee, I wonder where they got those specs from. And have a 600-mile range thanks to some sort of integrated battery pack. And I'm trying to find out more information about that, and I'll let you know if I find anything out. Then came the Fisker Pear, which they've been talking about for a while.
That one's been, they've been talking about that for ages now. I feel like that's like news I heard a while ago.
So this is supposed to be the cheap Fisker, and it's supposed to have a starting price of $29,900.
Okay.
So this is smaller in the Ocean. It's a car. It's not a crossover. I think they called it a crossover. It's not a crossover. It's a car, but it's not really a hatchback. It's kind of a wagon because it doesn't have like a.
It doesn't have a hatch. It has like a. Yeah, it just seems like it's
the window.
I'm sorry. What is that again, Robbie? What does it have?
It does this.
Yeah, the rear window slides down into what would be the tailgate
bumper,
and then the tailgate slide and the window slide down into the bumper, into the rear bumper. Yeah. So you don't have anything sticking out. If you're in tight spaces, you don't have to worry about ever.
To lift it up,
hatch and having it hit a low ceiling or anything like that.
I'm trying to. Did they show this in action? Is there video?
They did.
I need to see this now. I'm trying to.
I'll find it and
I'll just keep making that noise, and everyone can just imagine.
Yeah.
I was like, this sounds interesting. I saw Robbie's hand gesture / sounds like. Well, now I got to see what this looks like.
But this was clearly a very early prototype that they were showing. Because the Pear was originally supposed to come to market like by the end of this year, by the end of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's more like mid or late 2024.
First deliveries in 2025. It says
25. Yes, you're right.
Yes. Yeah, we expect to begin first deliveries in 2025.
Yeah, mid 2025. And this is the car that's supposed to be built by Foxconn in Lordstown, Ohio. This is
so many things going, so much to unpack from that statement.
I know,
yes.
You start, Robbie.
So Foxconn's a boondoggle. They got the factory from GM because GM closed the factory. Trump lost his mind.
So they essentially got it from Lordstown Motors.
Yeah, so they Lordstown got it from GM because Trump yelled at GM about it, and GM was like, fine, here. In fact, here's some money. Take our factory. Lordstown's a boondoggle. That's just a big scam. That's as far as
I love that word, boondoggle.
Boondoggle.
I'm so happy you said it like
I'm just going to keep saying it because I know how much you love it.
What do you think Lordstown is again, Robbie?
A boondoggle. So then now they can't do anything because they don't even have stuff, really, to be honest. I think they made like 5 trucks.
Sad.
So now Foxconn is coming in and they're using it to build, and Foxconn was supposed to build a factory in Wisconsin at some point.
They were going to build a TV factory in Wisconsin, yeah.
And then that just fell apart. Now Wisconsin really hates them. So they're going over to Ohio. Foxconn are the people who used to make your iPhone. And so they're sort of a manufacturer. They're like Magna, but for like electronics. And so now they're going to get into making vehicles, and they're going to be making apparently this vehicle at the Lordstown factory.
Because the day after this event, Henrik Fisker told somebody that the Foxconn deal's not finalized yet. We're still working on it. Yeah.
I
who knows
figured
who's going to make it.
Magna should just open another factory outside of their Austria production, because I feel like they could make so much money on all these EV startups. Because they have to get paid to make the car. They make cars. I mean, they make the G-Wagon, they make the Supra,
they've been doing it for decades.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
And they make most of the parts that go in the cars.
Yeah, and so if you're like, this is like the genius of Fisker is that he didn't build a factory. He didn't let's go out let's go out and build a factory or Lordstown, let's go buy this factory. He's these people know how to build cars.
Let's have the people who know how to build cars build some cars.
How about we just give them all the bits and tell them, hey, go build this car for us, and they're like, yeah, we'll build your car. We'll make G-Wagons. We can do whatever we want.
And it's so surreal. And when you get there and you see them rolling, you're like, there's some Fiskers and like a small fleet of G-Wagons. You're like, who owns this place? It's very weird.
Look at Supras. Come over here.
What Magna should do is they should just go to Foxconn and say, look, we know you don't know what you're doing.
Let's just put it all on the table.
Here's $400 million. You paid $270 to Lordstown that they set on fire. for this factory, and we'll give you a little return on your investment. Here's 400. Just go away. We'll take it over. We'll do it.
We got this.
Yeah,
because they want, and that'd be great for Magna, because now the vehicles that they're building here in the United States, now they qualified for the tax credits, because if these vehicles, the Magna factory's in Austria.
Yeah.
So there's no tax credit for that.
Right.
Unless you live in Austria, I guess. I don't know what the Austrian tax situation is.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can get in Europe. European customers can get various incentives on the ocean, but not here. So there are some really interesting design features about this. We talked about the rear hatch opening.
Remember, just in your eyes, mind's eye.
It's kind of like a double window going down.
Yeah.
The window goes down into the
Car and Driver. Go in Car and Driver's article about this event. They have a GIF of it.
Oh, perfect.
In action. There we go.
I will include
There
that.
we go.
All right. And then the front, it's supposed to be like a drawer that opens up. They didn't actually show that, and I don't think it's actually functional on the prototype that they had, but it's supposed to open up like a drawer, which is kind of interesting. But then inside, they put a lot of emphasis on, where can we cut costs that it's not, hopefully not going to be an impact, for the people in the car. So things like the armrests, normally you get into a car with 4 doors. There's an armrest on each door. Each one of them is a completely unique part, and they are not interchangeable with each other. On this one, they've designed it so that it's all completely symmetrical, and you can take the armrest and put it on any of the 4 doors. So you have one part number. So they Henrik said that they've reduced the parts count by like 35% on this car.
Wow.
Pretty impressive.
I'm currently just being fascinated by the tailgate door.
Now you're watching it?
Thing. I'm watching it. It's like the bottom part goes up really slowly. It's like,
oh yeah, it's definitely
this is
like a prototype, like a
prototype.
But then when the glass part goes up, it's like bloop, like get out of the way.
Yeah.
Like the glass is really really fast. Zip, and the glass part.
Someone's getting their arm stuck in that. They got to make sure that doesn't happen.
I'm getting.
When I say someone, I'm gonna get my arm stuck in that, because I'm gonna hit it and I'm like, oh, I gotta get this thing out of the truck, and I'm gonna reach in.
Someone would
and
be Robbie.
I'm gonna guillotine my hand off. I'm gonna like Luke Skywalker.
What happened to Robbie? Well, there was a pair.
Another interesting design detail on this thing is that you can get it with a front bench seat.
So you have 6 people in the car.
You can have 6 people. It's a split bench, so it's like 1/3 for the driver and 2/3, that slides back and forth separately from the driver's seat. But you can fit 3 people across it, or at least 3. Again, slim people. I don't know if Robbie and I and somebody else our size could fit comfortably in there, but at least nominally 3 people across, so 6-seater, which is kind of interesting. But
I'm gonna say that this is awesome for, especially when you're young. My girlfriend had a Mazda 3500. Is that or 2500? Anyway, she had the truck. She had the little pickup, and had a bench seat. And so when we were driving, she could sit right next to me. I could put my arm around her and drive, and then have to move my arm and shift gears and then drive with. It's kind of nice. And there's a whole Cake song about driving around in your Malibu. And have it because it has a bench seat, and they can see your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whoever can sit right next to you while you're driving. So there's that. You can put your arm around your partner or whoever you're dating, with the bench seat while you're driving. So that's nice.
That's the whole reason to buy it right there.
That's it. That's the whole reason. That's the whole reason. If you love, get the fence pair with the bench seat in the front.
So if and when this thing gets built,
confidence,
probably somewhere in North America, maybe in Ohio, maybe somewhere else, who knows? It's supposed to start at just under $30,000, and they made a big deal about, with the tax incentive, tax credit, $7,500 or $22,500, I should say. So
pretty good deal. If it works out.
Yeah. If they manage to, figure out where to build it, then it should be a bargain. And, it'd be nice to have something this size, that's that affordable. They didn't say anything at all about range. So I'm guessing it's probably going to be somewhere around 200 miles, at that price point. But again, that's fine for the vast majority of people.
I can't remember the last time our
Right.
car got down to 100 miles.
Yeah.
Our EV, it's got 250 something, and I can't remember the last time, but like we got it down to 100
Yeah.
of range left over the course of a day.
All right. And then after they were done talking about the pair, and Henrik likes to talk. He likes to promote his stuff.
I've interviewed Henrik. He does love to talk.
He's a great person to interview.
Oh yeah, he's great.
It's not like you got to
Yes.
drag information out of him.
Oh no, you ask one question, 20 minutes later, you're like, oh, what was my next question?
So anyway, the next thing that they had, a one more thing kind of thing. The other guy who was on stage with him, I can't remember who he was, some Fisker executive, and he was trying to, or at least making like he was trying to wrap up the show. Obviously they weren't. It was all a shtick. But Henrik came back on and said, "Oh, we got one more thing we got to show off," and that was the Atlas. No, Alaska. Sorry.
I'm like, Atlas, wait a minute.
That's Volkswagen's going to be really angry. Volkswagen's like, whoa, buddy.
Hold up there, Henrik.
Hold up there, Henrik.
The Fisker Alaska, yes, which is a pickup truck based on the ocean. Shocking one there. Some interesting design details there. It looks like it's a little bit smaller than a Rivian, and maybe a little bit bigger than a Santa Cruz or Maverick.
It's the return of the Subaru Brat. That's what I'm going to tell you. But throw some jump seats in the back. Boom, done.
I'm looking at a picture of the interior. Did you guys see this? The interior that looks like it has a drink on it that's the size
Oh, they talked about how they have like
of a
giant
cooler. It's gigantic.
Yes.
You couldn't pick that up and drive. You just have to have a giant straw just directly from that all the way
in your
to your
face.
shirt like a microphone, and then you could just lean over. What are those Camelback? The things, is that the one?
Oh yeah, the Camelback.
It would have to be that because you could never pick that up without two hands.
You gotta call somebody. That's why you need that bench seat.
Yeah.
So someone could just hold the drink for you and hand it to you.
Except you don't get the bench in the Alaska though.
Oh,
You got to have a console there to hold this enormous, look like a gallon water bottle.
It's huge. It's like a gallon of milk, but it's a water bottle shoved in there.
In the video, he's like, "Look what you can do," and I'm like, "That's such a weird flex." Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
I'm like, okay, do you need that much water? I mean, I appreciate you getting your.
You want to stay hydrated.
8-ounce glass. You'll stay hydrated in this. You'll visit every rest stop on your trip too if you're drinking like that.
Everyone's too hydrated nowadays.
Overhydrated.
You all need to settle down.
You all need to settle down, people. You don't need all that water.
So, one of the things that they talked about at the beginning of this thing was Henrik talked about how every Fisker has to have at least 4 unique features that you can't find anywhere else on any other product.
What are 4 unique features?
For the Alaska, this ridiculous cup holder was one of the 4 unique features.
What else was a unique feeture? What are the 4 other?
Let's see. There's a tray that slides out on the passenger side of the dashboard. That is like a tablet holder. So you've got the big center screen. So it's got the same rotating center screen.
Oh, I see. They have like a little thing propped on it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can pop up your own screen there. The tailgate. So he talked about how the Alaska is going to be the lightest electric pickup truck on the market. Which if it's
that's not tough.
I was gonna say, how hard is it to they all weigh
based on the ocean, so they should be able to get it, somewhere in the 5,500 pound range probably.
Yeah, if it's a compact to mid-size vehicle, I mean everything is mid-size and up, so that's like I put the smallest penny out there in the world.
Yeah.
Next to all the nickels. You're like, okay.
My penny weighs less than your
your nickels, yeah.
And it has a mid-gate like the Silverado EV, except that unlike the Silverado EV where the mid-gate folds down, this is the same mechanism that they're using on the back of the pair. So it actually, the window drops down and then the gate drops down and goes somewhere under the cab. Although, it's not entirely clear how that works with the battery down there as well. They didn't really show us those details. But you can fold down the back seats. So with the mid gate closed, the bed is 4.5 feet long, which is the same length as a Santa Cruz or a Maverick, or the Rivian for that matter. And with it down and the seats folded down, and the tailgate up, you can have up to 7.5 feet. And then with the tailgate down, it's up to 9.5 feet. So that's actually pretty good for a truck this size.
And when the seats folded down, it's flat compared to the bed. Because I was watching that, I'm like, if it like folds down and there's like a bump or something, like, oh, you blew it, dude.
Yeah.
Nope, flat with the bed.
Yep. So nicely done. So some nice details on there. And again, this is based on the Ocean, and they said that this should be coming out by Q4 of 2024. So given that it's based on an existing vehicle, if they can get all their software issues worked out, this one might actually show up, somewhere in that time frame.
Okay.
So looks cool. We'll
sure.
See. Built by Magna, so you know what they're doing. Again, you're like, well, no, I guess this one would be built by Foxconn. If it's built on the same platform, that platform would be built at Ohio.
Well, no, but this one I think will be built by Magna.
Okay, go there.
Because it is the Ocean. And
the Magna. Ocean does. I'm sorry, not the pair.
Right.
It's such weird naming.
Ronin, Ocean, Alaska.
I know, they're kind of all over the place.
Most car companies, it's all over the place, to be honest. So,
PAIR is actually an acronym.
Yeah, it's like people eat
personal
rice. I don't remember what it was.
No, Personal Electric Automotive Revolution.
Okay,
but I like yours better.
Let's slow down there.
Okay.
Personal electric. It's like Epcot, the environmental prototype community of tomorrow, and all everyone remembers is Epcot. No one's going to know what PAIR stands for.
Yeah.
Okay.
People eat all the rice.
So what do you
this?
what do you put the odds of the PAIR and the Ronin never showing up?
Oh, you know what?
It's a stupid expensive one, right?
Yeah, the Ronin's going to take a while. I don't think. Wait, let's not hold our breaths on the Ronin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
The PAIR with Foxconn, there's going to be issues. I just feel like there's going to be delays. Yeah, I feel like there's going to be delays. The Alaska, though, I feel like Alaska's going to make it to market.
Alaska could happen. I'm 100% with you. Alaska, yes. Ronin.
They've given themselves enough like runway that it doesn't, that it's, they can say, oh, it'll be next year. I just feel like
it's coming forever.
Yeah. I just feel like the PAIR is the one that's going to have the most trouble, just because, again, the Foxconn Lordstown, I feel like that's the curse factory at this point. Like you're going to walk in and beams are going to fall and like barely miss people. They're going to have to bring a young priest and an old priest in.
Like little sounds in the background.
Yeah, there's like poltergeist.
The soundtrack from the Haunted Mansion plays.
And it starts, yeah. Yeah.
So not feeling too confident on the PAIR then, I think.
I think it'll eventually make it. I just think it's going to be long. It's going to take longer than they anticipate, just because they're working with this, again, Foxconn, who makes, they're great at making iPhones, but an iPhone and a car are not the same thing.
No.
Not the same thing.
Like my iPhone doesn't have wheels. See?
This
is for the one person watching the feed. My iPhone doesn't have wheels.
My iPhone doesn't have wheels. No, mine does. I don't know what down market iPhone you bought, Robbie.
I'm notoriously cheap. I'm gonna.
All right. Finally, I went to lunch on Friday for a preview of the 2023 Detroit Concours d'Elegance, which was the show was acquired a couple of years ago by Haggerty. And last year, they bought all the Concours. And last year, 2022, they moved the show from the Inn at St. John's in Plymouth, Michigan, to downtown Detroit, to the Detroit Institute of Arts, the grounds around the DIA. They wanted to get it closer to the people of Detroit. And so, this year they still doing it at the DIA, doing a few changes. Last year, one of the new things that they added was a ride and drive program. They brought a whole bunch of vehicles from Haggerty's heritage fleet, because we talked about this in the distant past. Haggerty's got a bunch of cool old vehicles because the way they operate is as an insurance company focused on the classic car market is the policies that they do. You can get an insurance policy from them where there's a guaranteed price for to cover that they will cover your car for. And if you decide if you need to make a claim and you decide that you want to just take the money, they will buy the car from you for that price. And then they have a program up at their headquarters in Traverse City, Michigan, where they do training, for apprentices, for car restoration and repair. And so they have a bunch of old vehicles that they've acquired over the years that they have fixed up, including there's a 1968 Shelby GT500 that they have. Ooh. They have a 71 Ford Bronco, both of which I've driven, and a bunch of others. And so they take these around to various events. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I had some audio coming through from one of our listeners, but I think I muted him. Anyway, they're doing the last year they did the ride and drive at Comerica Park, which is about 10 minutes walk south of the DIA. It's still in Midtown Detroit. But they, it was kind of at a distance. So this year they're kind of consolidating everything right around the DIA to make it more convenient for people. So that'll help, I think. And hopefully the weather will be good. This year, every year the concourse has had a special honoree, and it's in the past, it's always been an individual. Like last year it was Ed Welburn, the former head of design at General Motors. This year, they've decided to honor Powered by Detroit, honoring the people who put the world on wheels. So the workers of Detroit auto factories, which will be interesting because the show is February 22nd and 23rd, which is about a week after the UAW contracts expire at GM Detroit and Stellantis.
I better hope that works out.
Yeah, there's a very high probability that at least one of those manufacturers will be in the midst of a strike when the concourse is happening. Well, actually, it turns out the Detroit Auto Show Media Day is the day before the contract expires. The
day before. It's the day, that way we have some more to do.
And the contract expires, right before the charity fundraiser, the black tie charity fundraiser at the auto show. And so it could be you could see UAW pickets, picketing out in front of Huntington Place as people are open to the public. So that could be interesting. But yeah,
I'm excited for drama.
Yeah.
Yay, bring it.
They've got a bunch of special groups that they're honoring this year. They've got the 120th anniversary of Buick, 57 Heaven, so cars from 1957, Mopar Magic, 1960s Ferraris, Radwood Detroit, because Radwood is going to be here in Detroit the week before the concourse.
Because they bought Radwood as well.
Yeah. Japanese classics, 75th anniversary of Porsche, celebrity cars owned or driven by celebrities, 60th anniversary of Lamborghini, and 60th anniversary of McLaren.
This sounds so much better than the Pebble concourse, by the way, the other guns. Because the Pebble, there's no Japanese cars. Acura has a few, or Lexus has a few cars that they bring in every year now. But there's it's all just old white people cars.
Yeah, this is one of the things about the concourse here in Detroit. They've always had some unusual classes. Like they usually have a class for drag racers. One year they had a class for classic rally cars.
Oh, see, this sounds way better than. Why am I going to Pebble?
Yeah.
Boo, Pebble.
A couple of years ago, they had the wedge class. So they had my friend Richard Truitt brought one of his Triumph TR8s. There was a Lancia Stratos, Lamborghini Countach, and a Lotus Esprit, and a bunch of other wedge cars. So they always get some unusual stuff here.
Yeah, see,
And
sounds
also,
so much better.
Cool.
One last thing. Usually the concours is on Sunday, and they have other events going on Saturday, the Saturday before. This year they're moving it to Friday and Saturday because the Sunday is the beginning of Yom Kippur. So it'll be Friday, September 22nd, and Saturday, September 23rd at the DIA.
Cool.
Right. So if you're in the Detroit area, go downtown and check out the concourse. It's
That sounds again
sounds
way
cool.
cooler than the Pebble. Like they have like a caviar booth.
Yeah.
Just so much more than I am.
How long are you at Pebble? How long is that trip for you?
So the Monterey week starts on Thursday and ends on Sunday. So I'll be there Thursday for some events. Then Friday is Quail, which is kind of where all the news really comes from.
Right.
And then Saturday is usually track day. But I have to come back and do a show. One of my bands has a show.
Oh, so you can't go to the motorsports reunion?
So I might go if anything in the morning I can do, but then I have to leave, drive back, go to Alameda, do a show, turn around, go back, and get up the next morning, and then go to the concourse, which is a lot of just really old. Like, here's a DeSoto. I'm like, oh, cool. The cars. That's the problem. Is like I've seen 95% of the cars that are there are always there.
Yeah.
And they're all flown in, and so I'm a very simple person. I
don't want no fancy caviar and all that stuff.
Yeah, I will eat some cereal after this podcast.
You were eating toast when it started.
I had some. Yeah, I have some toast.
Seems pretty on track.
Yeah, So it is far fancier than I will ever be. I don't know if unfortunately is the word, but it's just say it's far fancier than I am.
It's fancier.
So at some point I'm like, oh, these are cool because I get to look at these cool cars, but at the same time I'm like, oh, I've already seen these cool cars like 70 times.
Yeah. And we have a bunch of those cars too. I mean, we have brassier cars. And,
once you see one.
Yeah.
Once you see one DeSoto, you've seen them all.
Pretty much.
Sorry, DeSoto owners.
It's the other groups that always draw me to the.
It is the other groups, which I wish there was more of at Pebble. Pebble just needs to diversify.
Yeah.
More so than anywhere else.
So that's it for the news stuff. And then we have one listener question this week from Ed, which came in via email, and you can send those to feedback@wheelbearings.media. You can also send us, if you want to record your questions and send us the audio, we'll include that in the show. So anyway, Ed asks, says, thanks for answering my long question earlier about CCS versus NACS connector. It was wonderfully explained. Well, we try. We do what we can. Question one.
You must answer the question.
I think we all contributed to it.
Okay.
Anyway, question one from Ed this week says, I often see Michigan manufacturer license plates in California. Are these test vehicles being driven by the engineers working on them? Do the vehicles you test drive have these types of plates? So yes and yes, basically.
Yeah.
Most automakers, they will take their vehicles to a wide variety of locations to do testing, to test them in all kinds of different environments. I know, when I was still working as an engineer, I spent many long winter weeks in places like International Falls, Minnesota, and the Arctic region of Sweden, doing winter testing and doing hot weather testing in places like Mesa, Arizona. They take them to they take vehicles to Pikes Peak in Colorado to do brake testing. They drive up Pikes Peak and then heat soak the brakes and then drive down Pikes Peak and see if they can still stop when they get to the bottom.
Hopefully it's not quite that dramatic. I don't know, boys.
I feel like there could just be a nice straight downhill road that's like somewhere that someone could use. But let's go to Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
See what happens.
So Southern California is one of the places they go. They also go to Death Valley. If you want to see, the photographers, the group of photographers who do all the spy photography, one of the places where they hang out, there's a number of places they know where these vehicles are being tested. They know where the proving grounds are. They know, where the cold weather locations are. Death Valley is one of those places. And there are certain times of the year when you will see these test vehicles running around Death Valley, and you will see photographers hiding out with long lenses, taking pictures of them. And you will see them running up the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, and various other places in California. And, a lot of them have Michigan manufacturer plates, if they have R&D facilities here in Michigan, and many of them do, but you'll also find them with manufacturer plates from other places, like the Toyotas these days, they will
Texas.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. The development vehicles, because their R&D centers are actually here in Ann Arbor, I think they
have Michigan
plates.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. I bet a lot. What you see, Michigan, they could very well be engineers, but I'm thinking some of the other manufacturer plates we get, they aren't doing development. It literally is just media driving it.
And sometimes, most of the time it's the engineers, but also sometimes it's just test drivers. They're doing durability testing. Where they're just racking up miles. So they're not necessarily engineers, but they work for the manufacturers, doing the durability testing. So around here, where I live in Southeast Michigan, you see M plates all the time, but you see them quite frequently in California as well.
Yeah. Sorry.
And some of the test vehicles we get do have M plates on them. Depends on the manufacturer. And sometimes it's Michigan plates. For some reason, Hyundai vehicles have Illinois manufacturer plates on, which I don't understand, because Hyundai doesn't have a factory in Illinois. They don't have any major.
Mine do. I think mine are. I thought mine were California.
I think mine are.
Well, the ones we get here usually have Illinois plates on them.
Now I have to pay attention to the next Hyundai I get to see what kind of plates are on it.
Yeah, BMWs have New Jersey plates on them because BMW's U.S. headquarters is in New Jersey.
My latest BMW had California plates on it. It was really weird.
They're just messing with us now.
Yeah,
they're just doing this to mess with us.
Just they've all had New Jersey plates up until I got the M2, when it had California plates.
Okay,
it was weird. I don't know what's going on.
Chaos.
And the Toyota that's in my driveway right now does have a Texas plate on it. So, all right. Question 2 from Ed. Why do manual transmissions have a clutch pedal? Why not have a button to serve its function? Is this a holdover from the original design of the ICE engine? And for context, when I was learning to drive, I tried a manual transmission car, and at some point it stalled and thought it was way too complicated and confusing to me. Well, that happened with my younger child. They after one lesson trying to learn how to drive my Mustang, said, "That's it, I'm done.
I'm out.
I'm out." Yeah. So, manual clutch pedals. Well, a lot of race cars actually do have buttons, steering wheel buttons for the clutch pedal. Formula One cars do. I believe Indy cars do. Actually, they don't have a button; they have a paddle. So they actually, they'll have usually on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, they'll have one paddle for shifting and the other paddle for the clutch. And so a lot of race cars do use either a paddle or a button on the steering wheel for the clutch, because once they get rolling, and they only use it to launch. Once they get rolling, then they don't shift, or they don't use the clutch. They just shift with the paddles, because they shift under power.
If you're watching the live feed, I am showing how that works.
He's been shifting like he's
and then when you're going fast
furious.
enough, you can just do this.
Years he's done, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So Jeff and Friedland, you can see that. Yeah,
you can see that. You saw my miming.
But that it has not always been the case. If you remember, if you're old enough to remember back to the early 1970s, the VW Beetle Sportmatic. And I believe Porsche had this available on some cars as well. The clutch was actually activated when you grabbed the shifter knob. So when you grab the shifter knob, it would disengage the clutch, and then you'd shift. And when you let go of the shifter knob, it would re-engage the clutch.
That sounds kind of cool. Was that easy, I wonder, or was that a pain in the butt?
I don't know. I never drove one of those. And they didn't last for very long.
It sounds like maybe not that great.
Yeah,
maybe not that great.
Because sometimes you like rest your hand on the shift.
You'd accidentally engage it. Yeah.
But also, you probably had to push down on it. You probably had to like give it a little.
There
I
had
don't-
to have been another
I
step.
don't
'Cause
think
I
so.
feel like you can just like, especially like you can just like grab it, or maybe it had like a pull. Did it have a pull? Like the rear, the reverse. Some of the reverse have a little pull.
Yeah, you
collar.
pull up on like a little collar. Yeah. Oh no.
See, according to Wikipedia, the name AutoStick has been used for Volkswagen semi-automatic transmissions, which is a vacuum-operated automatic clutch system coupled with a conventional 3-speed manual transmission. The AutoStick system, originally designed by Chrysler, allows for manual selection of gears with a standard hydraulic automatic transmission, also known as a manumatic. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I don't know exactly how the VW
How that worked.
worked,
We'll look it up.
but
Fair enough.
it was there. It was, they called it the Sportmatic on the Beetle, at least anyway. And some of the other, I think on the Type 4 air-cooled Beetle or air-cooled VWs. So yeah. So but clutch pedals are more fun.
Oh, so how the reason you need it is because it disengages at a certain, like when you hit this certain pressure point, that's when it engages or disengages the clutch. So you can like you can control a manual transmission vehicle far better than you can automatic transmission vehicle. So that's why the manual moves so much instead of a button.
And I think part of the reason why VW went away from the Sportmatic thing is because it was basically just on off. You couldn't really modulate the clutch. And so I think it was actually harder to launch. Like if you're on a hill, if you're on a hill with a manual transmission, you can have your left foot on the clutch pedal and and adjust it, hold it just enough to hold you so you don't roll backwards down the hill, and then give it a little gas and then let the clutch go and accelerate up the hill. And I think it didn't work that well with the Sportmatic system because you didn't really have that control over when the clutch engaged and disengaged. It was just on or off basically.
So your left foot braking.
Yeah.
Regular, not racing.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for this week.
That's it. We're done.
We will be back next week. And I'm going to shut off the live stream now and say goodbye.
Bye, everyone.